it has been higher. So this is the thing that I want to see really push through. I want to see it push through this level, and then I want to see it push through this trend line, and then I want it come back, test the 42.5. So it needs to get through 42,500, and then once it's get past 46,000, I'm pretty convinced that at that point we're moving back to at least the 50, and of course it may be even higher because that's where the daily 50 is. The daily 50 is right on the 50,000 or around that level. So we've got a very important zone coming up here today. Do you guys think the Bitcoin's going to smash this 40,500? Let me know right now. Up or down? Is this thing in the next 24 hours? What do you guys think? Kevin says, morning dudes. Good. STJJ Film says, so buy the dip? ? I think yesterday, if you were looking at it here and you had money in the system, we knew that, well, I said straight away that liquidity was going to be liquidity coming in because we saw every exchange down. Now, when I saw that 35K this morning and I saw the volume coming through, I think that for traders that are willing to and wanting to invest, that's certainly a level of interest. That's certainly a level of interest. And I think a lot of people did buy that one. I mean, you were getting basically a classic kind of pullback to a key zone, and every one of the coins was giving you serious levels. I mean, you had a 2160 on Ethereum. We go over to something like an ADA. I mean, you got a double bounce down to 130. That is a classic type of thing for a market to do, where it goes up, gets everyone initially, remargins them. You can see the long leg doji here on the 2 hour, and then decision made to go back up. Now we're at a critical point of resistance. So we're back up at the zone. Do we want to get more distribution and shake out more paper hands? And if that's the way, so if you're thinking about, let's go back to this concept. Let's just say they were doing this. What's the kind of accumulation side of things? So generally in any good accumulation that takes time, you see a market kind of dive, and I don't think it's ever going to include the wick. So let's call the wick an anomaly. So let's call 35K on Bitcoin the level that we want to be looking at, all right? So if we're talking about 35,000, and then you're talking about the movement that's going to come through here, what's going to happen is the wick, we've lost it. The lowest low is unlikely to get hit without the whole market really being in serious errors. So let's call that 35. It's going to go up to the 40, come back down, go up again, come back down, potentially go slightly lower would be kind of where a trap would be, e.g. here, and then you would move back up. Now that's pretty classic with most markets. If the market is incredibly bullish, it goes like this, lightning bolt. And if the market's incredibly bullish, you see a closure above 45, so 40,500, and we continue on with the 42.5 being a resistance, the 46 being a resistance, and then of course the 50 being resistance. So the question is, which market are we in right now? And we don't have the first signals yet, but I have shown you just then the levels that I'm looking at. So I'm really just basically saying, if we're on BTC, we've got our trend line, we've got our 42.5, and this zone here, I think is incredibly interesting for the bull case on Bitcoin. Barnyard says some structure is forming, feels organically supported today. The attempt currently at 40,750 is convincing, so I think there's a chance we go and test 42 today. I think that's quite likely, Barn. It seems that most people say bottom is in, boys, says Cameron Chevalier. Yeah, fair enough. 50-50. That was illiquidity. So you've got to think of this as being a fake bottom to a degree. What happened there, and we saw it probably, I think we exposed it most in DOT when we saw that DOT crash. I mean, that thing hit 18, and I think what that was showing me and showing us really, and this is why I was like, wow, this is stupid, is that the illiquidity was serious. And I know on very good intel, a few people, so about 800,000 accounts yesterday got wiped. Of those 800,000 accounts, it looks like Binance actually missed pricing. Multiple kind of brokers missed pricing. And what happened was they actually were meant to settle it. They couldn't. And they have gone into the kitty. So I didn't know this. I read it up yesterday. Very interesting. So most of the crypto markets have protection on them in the isolated accounts. What they do is when they liquefy someone, they take 2%. And most of them did this after the $500 million disaster a few years ago. And there are some disasters coming out over this next 24 hours, I think, from smaller companies. Don't worry, they're still coming. So we had basically a huge amount of liquidations over the last couple of months with these big pullbacks that have occurred. That's led to the kitty being very, very high. And then they've gone and drawn down into the kitty and liquefied events. So basically Binance and others did have problems yesterday getting liquidity, and they wore, it looks like, the pricing based on what I'm seeing in the systems, what I'm hearing, etc., etc., etc. So I think that this is a false price. And of course, if DOT got back down to 18, if we saw ADA back under $1, I think that's a very significant issue in this market. So yep, it's Bitcoin is looking good at this price action right now. You go over to an 8 hour, of course, it's trying to push up now. And I'm looking for a break of this trend line. 42.5 is kind of a level that I'm very interested in, and a break of a high right now. It's testing it as we speak. So this 48 just got pushed. Now it's going 41. So strength is certainly there. Bradley back, US $5. US oil to recover, ? Sitting on daily 200. We'll do it in a second, Bradley. Thank you very much for getting the super chat started today. PJ Sherpa says $1,500 profit on my put options and only $500 when I settled. Is this like a put option in? Oh, okay. Used Binance. So they closed early. But exchanges didn't have any problems with bulk sales and massive whale feeds. Yeah, well, can't really comment on that necessarily, but what I can comment on is that there was a lot of purchasing that went on, I know, around that 35K. Large accounts came in here. Tens and tens and tens of millions were transacted in terms of large whale accounts that are known to hold huge portions of Bitcoin. And they were buying huge here. They weren't necessarily buying much here, but they bought massive around this zone today. So that's, of course, a bullish. This is more, as someone said before, the word organic. The question is, how fast is this market going to be? Is it going to be a traditional kind of massive, huge rally that just comes through incredibly fast? Is it going to have secondary sell-offs other than the one that we just saw earlier this morning? We don't know that portion yet. We just know where our kind of trend lines are and what we're looking for. Seems to me that ADA would be more profitable. ADA, look, it doesn't matter which coin you're looking at. They all obviously are presenting different profit levels and different risk levels. I mean, if you think about where ADA was and where ADA went to, of course, this coin here also presented a much larger risk in the last 48 hours than something like Bitcoin did. It just depends which coin. If you want the blue chip coins, obviously the Ethereum and the BTC, then you'll take less risk and you'll get less return, historically speaking. If you go and take the risk on something like ADA, you will get a higher return, but of course more fluctuation. If you go and buy something like, look at VET, it's a great example. Highly fluctuating coin, doesn't have the historical value. I looked at this one after the stream and I was like, wow, that's a huge push off. Like, this thing went down 80% top to bottom. And that's why that, the market was probably going to rally. To take 80% out with the amount of millennial money, with the amount of money coming back in, it was pretty significant stuff. That was huge. I mean, to go to 0.05 from a 0.25 on a pretty significant coin, phenomenally crazy moves. Okay. Anyway, so effectively, yes, I think that we've seen organic supply. I can tell you again, 35,000 was huge purchases, big accounts, well-known HODL accounts that sold. They were coming through with the goods. Welcome 1,378 viewers. We've just been talking about the lightning bolt going through here on BTC, whether it can sustain further running. I still think 42.5 it's going to have a little bit of problems with. I'm looking at this trend line to be broken to really show us that the bulls are back in town here on Bitcoin and stuff. And I think also if you're looking at profit taking and usually where markets go back to, often speaking, you want to look at the previous kind of support zone. So if we think about BTC right now, and we'll go into the market in just a few minutes, guys, we've got a 50 exponential moving average. Then we've got a 50 exponential moving average. Then we've got a 50 exponential moving average. Then we cracked it and all this crap started beginning. So if we think about it that way, what could be if we consider this a blow off, what do we know about blow offs, guys? I want you in the community to tell me what we know about blow-offs. We've done blow-offs research and reports on BTC many times. Where do we expect this thing to come back to? Guys, tell me right now. And I'll leave this on the chart and I'll read some of the chat. Michael says, all I know is I bought, sold ADA over the past few weeks and made between 50 and 90% profit. Good work, Michael. It's been some great trading on ADA. Congratulations. Crypto Boss says 200K this year. Wow, that's some impressive stuff there, man. Loving the Crypto 10. Good way of doing it, Warwick. Absolutely. Buying indices, if you don't have a specific one, is really, really good. Michael Davis says blow-offs equal game over. That's right. HE says they smell. PK Subban says 618 fib. That's right. So between the 618 fib and the 786, you expect failure. And I mean massive failure. So basically in any blow off in this zone here is generally speaking where you see failings. That will also hit the 50 exponential daily. Maybe it'll be down around this level.